As always, thank you for joining me. And I wanted to briefly go into what's going on in terms of the Earth, we could say space weather, take that galactically and transdimensionally. We are in a situation of solar maximum at this time, which means there's a lot of activity. There's these cycles and then solar minimum, where the activity is a lot less now in terms of coronal mass ejections and how the Earth is affected. And we've got a very thin magnetic field around the Earth. And it's been like that for a while. We're in a situation where we are affected by high EMF. And that's partly what's happening from the byproduct of the coronal mass ejections, the solar flares. There's this energy. We still don't understand energy 100%. Scientists don't. We just don't. Now, we do know that we are affected by this energy, and people can start to get anxiety, feel like they're being watched, depression, hallucinate, nausea. There's all these different things that can start to occur. And what we aren't educated on is when the sun is giving off huge amounts of energy, we too are affected in this way. Now, there is the Carrington event going back quite some time that you may want to look at, where part of, I believe in North America, the telephone grid had to be rebuilt. There's a lot of different things that in the infrastructure of Earth we are not prepared for to an extent with a huge event like the Carrington event if it happens in modern times, which it's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. And it's not doom or gloom. What's happening in effect is huge energies are coming in from the sun, but where does that energy come from? Well, it's coming from source. And I just invite you, just for a moment, to think about all the stars, our sun being part of that, as a part of a neuron network. And we still don't understand the neuron network within the brain ourselves, but just imagine that it's a network. And stars are connected through energy, through tunnels, which is probably the best way I could explain this. But think about electrical wiring, maybe instead of tunnels. And the energy that's going out to all stars is coming from the galactic center. And that's coming in from wherever, we could say the field, source, but it's coming in from wherever you want to think of that energy is, where it resides, even though everything's holographic in nature. But it's projecting. It's giving the power source and the energy to all the stars to project this physical reality that we're experiencing, though that's actually coming in from our own neuron network to an extent. I think they'll find out. But what's happening is we've got source energy coming in from the sun, our star, and this is actually happening to all stars and their planetary bodies and satellites and what have you that they've got within their system. So there are times where you will see a byproduct of not just people being clumsy, outburst, energetically not just feeling right, but also these cycles of an upping in hurricanes, cyclones, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanoes. And that's because the energetic scenario of how, in this case, the Earth is being affected, the energy affects the system, meaning the Earth itself, Gaia, and how it's operating, and things contract, expand. This is just normal. Though there's uppings in, we could say, intensities that happen depending on what's going on, what cycle we're in, and what have you. If that's not crazy enough already, we've also got a scenario where our sun, again, is a star. All stars are portals. And this is where, depending on the level of technology and consciousness you're operating at, we can look at this perspective of extraterrestrials using these stars to navigate this galaxy, and at the core of it, we've got the central part that's connected to the central parts of other galaxies. Now, extraterrestrial intelligences will use this to navigate the cosmos, basically like a universal, or we could say galactic highway, in this case if we keep it local. We've also got the scenario, if you go back to Egypt, of the talk of souls coming through Orion's belt to Earth. And we all know, even with the Lion's Gate, it's an alignment of Sirius, the constellation of Orion, and our star. And if you think about what I've just put out there, transmissions of energies, and I've written about this before in my books and the material, talking about transmissions coming through, activations occurring. It's happening somewhat on a photonic level, to where photons are bringing through this information, data, what have you. And we have free will to act upon with the results and the upping of this and whatever happens and occurs. There's also the situation of, even though these are somewhat natural portals, so everything is, we could say, synthetic because God's made it, if we look at it from that perspective. And as I say, I'm very much convinced that we're on a treadmill in God's mind, not going anywhere, experiencing itself. It's important to remember that the portal that bypasses souls travelling the cosmos through stars and their network, or even in terms of the star being a portal itself for vehicles, and there are Stargates and what have you, and that's basically what I'm saying to an extent, is that the star is a Stargate, but there's also human-made, extraterrestrial human-made Stargate technologies, very much like the television show Stargate SG-1. But even more advanced than that is the Inner Stargate, which we have within us, our own inner technology that makes everything else obsolete. And part of the journey is unraveling that through the Ascension process. This has got to do with the heart. The heart, we could say, is the activation button. And via consciousness and intention, and consciousness will give you access to the ability to do that which I'm talking about, in this case, teleport. We could say that bilocation, levitation, psychic abilities and what have you are all ways that pave the way to unravel the extent of this inner technology in terms of being able to access that inner portal. But it's also got a flip side of, when you connect to the heart, it's at the core of your light body, your orb of light, which has got the rainbow body in it, it's got the Merkaba in it, it's got the tree of life and all other different templates. And via the mind's eye, we can attune in somewhat a remote viewing state and access anywhere in space and time. But it all has to do with intention. It was explained to me a long time ago that you only attain that which you're at the level of consciousness to attain. And when you get access to certain abilities, and let's say even technologies, in this case the inner technology, you wouldn't do certain things with it, which is harm others and be destructive with it. But when you connect with the heart, again, I believe, as I've said a lot of times before, that it is a physical manifestation of the core of the light body. It's also the first organ to manifest within the womb. And we now know with heart coherence how, when you go into the brain and the heart and breathing, like with heart math, that you can come to a state of coherence, the observer state, the witnessing state, the being state. You can even receive answers, guidance, possibly do healings. There's a lot of different things that can be done in that state. But the Inner Stargate overrides and is more amazing than anything that most people can even imagine or perceive in the state of consciousness they're currently operating in. But out of body, as I say, I think we know it all. So what's the fruit from this for you? That I would ask you and invite you to think about. And before we wrap this up, I'll just invite you to sit with me just for a moment. Set the intention of connecting with the heart. You can even put your hand over your heart. And nothing fantastical. I just invite you to breathe in using imagination, which is creation if you need to. Just breathe into the heart. And breathe out of the heart. Breathe into the heart. Just go into a state of witnessing my voice at this time. And go back behind that to a place where you're witnessing that you're witnessing my voice. So you're observing my voice, but there's a place behind that you're witnessing my voice. Just sit in that space for a moment and just breathe in and out of the heart. And just be. Thank you for joining me.